Welcome everyone to my chess stream here on lichess and Twitch. My name is International Master William Paschall. We're going to bring the board up here and get things started. We're going to be playing blitz and classical chess here on lichess with the time control between 5 and 8 minutes. And I would like the increment to be between 3 and 5 seconds. Mandatory increment so I don't lose every game on time. I'm trying to explain this wonderful game of chess to everyone. We've got to prefer the larger increment for the faster games, like with the 5-minute games you can make the increment up to 5 seconds, and for the slower games we only need an increment of like 3 seconds. Yesterday one of my opponents challenged me to 8-7. It's not necessary to have such a long increment with the 7 or 8 minute games. So let's hope that the stream works here. We're going to bring the video cam up and we should be good to go. Hopefully Jeroen will be here, our moderator. Regular Blitz classical stream today. Tomorrow on Wednesday I'm going to be doing unusual openings. Every Wednesday we have Weird Wednesday where we're playing stuff that we don't normally play. Kind of different openings that I wouldn't normally play, a little bit unusual. Gambits and whatnot, exciting stuff like the King's Gambit, Latvian Gambit. We can come up with some new creative ideas. I have a few ideas in store for the next stream tomorrow. So we're going to get started playing right away here. Basically, I'm playing viewers, and if we run out of viewers to kill, then we go on to the basically the open pool of players. But that doesn't usually happen. So we're going to play Hizitnuns. Actually, Hizitnuns is here first, and he's raring to go. So I lost against him yesterday, where I won a piece, but he had the way more compensation than I really foresaw. We're going to try to handle him today. It's our first game for the stream today. I'm going to accept here. If you want to play, challenge me to unrated or casual rather than rated games. I'm at something of a slight disadvantage commentating and really, trying to explain the games, and so rated games are out. And also I'd like to require that people have somewhat of an established rating if they're going to play at least like 50 games in the rating tabulation category. So if you have just like 10 games or 20 games, it's really not enough. I don't know, if your rating is valid or you're somebody trying to troll me using a computer or whatever. I don't want to let that happen. So we're going to get underway in a second. I just want to welcome everyone. Hizitnuns, you're the first one here. We're going to get started. So you're white. It's 8-3. This is the longest time control I'm going to play. If someone wants to play with the larger increment, the 5-second increment, you can challenge me to 7-5. So yesterday against Hizitnuns, I was white and ended up in a Queen's Indian, Bogo Indian type position. Yeah, you made it 8-3 as the other people today, right? So 8-3 is the longest time control I'm going to play. 7-5 is also kind of interesting if you prefer the increment. The 7-5 could, if you had a really long game, I guess the 7-5 could be longer than the 8-3. C3 Sicilian, my favorite. I mentioned this on the stream basically before. I think that if you check like my chess-based profile or something, you'll probably do one of these player surveys or whatever. I would imagine like the C3 Sicilian would probably be my statistically worst opening. I've tried literally every line for black. Almost every line. In my simul, I lost against this guy Lenchin for the second time. And it was a C3 Sicilian. I noticed that he played almost perfectly, though. Bishop e3. Now, here Lenchin played bishop e2 against him in my simul. It's a much quieter line. Bishop e3 is more forcing, threatening to take on c5. But they're different. There are some different ideas, as Lenchin pointed out in his game against me. He played bishop e2, and then later knight c3, knight b5, with the idea of putting the bishop on f4. That's a different system altogether. So I follow games I've had against some strong players here. Basically, not here, but in tournaments. Romanian GM Vita Levente and I have had at least one game in this line. I lost against him it seems to me I had another game against another strong player in the last 10 years in this line. Also beat Alex Strapunski in the last round of Chicago Open once. Back in 2001 in this variation for a lot of money. That was a nice feeling to take out, a relatively high-rated GM in a money game in the last round. But, so maybe up to three games here. Now, Hisitman's played Bishop D3 here. I'm just wondering if A3 is preferred move order or not. Is it worth it for me to play like knight to B4? Can I do that? Knight B4, the idea of knight D5? Interesting question. Knight B4, bishop B5 check, bishop D7. Bishop takes D7. Shouldn't be a problem, should it? Might be easier for me to just not have to waste a lot of time. I'm going to just transpose to normal positions. He's going to have to play A3. He'll probably have to play A3 sooner or later. I don't know. So eventually I'm going to play knight B4. It feels a little early here, honestly. I'm not sure. I don't want to have to. I'm already behind like by a minute on the clock, so I don't want to have to think about it too much, but I could have played knight B4. I think most players play A3 first. I guess there are independent possibilities here. Let me know if the stream is okay, if everybody can see and hear. If knight B4 there, I guess he's forced to do something dramatic. You could always play a quiet move like bishop E2, but maybe I should have gone for it. Okay, so castles, B6. Against Strapunski, I played another line with rook to D8. And that's also interesting. But subsequently, I lost against somebody, and I had the feeling there were 2 games I lost that line. Not just one. I know that I lost to Vital Levente, and I had the feeling that there was somebody else who played the same line against me. I can't remember who it was. Welcome everybody. You don't really see much going on in the chat room. Maybe my chat is behind or something. My Twitch may not be updating. I'll refresh my Twitch stream and see what's up. So we're playing serious chess on my channel. I mean, this is not a joke. It's no 1-minute chess. Now, rook E1 is not the standard idea. Looks like Hisitnotes is kind of, how to say, just innovating here. I mean, it's not a bad move, rook E1, but I think it's pretty universally, known that typically we have queen E2 and rook D1. I don't know if there's some sort of trap. I think in general rook E1 is less aggressive than queen E2. Actually, in Hisitnotes played that without A3 first. I think maybe he's not that expert in this line. The hesitation of not playing A3 and rook E1. Normally the C3 Sicilian players, they've been playing it for their whole lives, and they worship it, and it's their favorite opening. We may be seeing someone here who's like learning the C3 Sicilian, or he doesn't play it all the time. I don't know. I don't recall having a C3 Sicilian with Hisitnotes. We haven't played. Well, we played quite a few games actually. I don't recall the C3 Sicilian being part of the deal, so to speak. Now, knight G4 is possible, but it doesn't look very fundamental. I mean, to leave the center. No, it's as if he played rook E1 in a kind of like standard position. My rooks belong in the center here. There's always a threat of D5. So I want to watch out for that. He's playing very fast. Rook on AD1, knight D5, knight G4. Stubby McDooby. Again, a book position with the rook Fe1 early. May end up transposing. But generally speaking, I don't think that rook move really makes a lot of difference. But his Hitman's playing very, very quickly. Here, I don't know. I mean, I can play like queen b8, maybe rook on f to e8, g6, rook d7 comes to mind. Yeah, I've seen rook d7 before. Try to like triple on the d file. I don't know. I was looking at a game maybe this summer where this was played, but I'm not really that sure about it. It defends here laterally, these bishops, the e7 bishop. In times where white plays like d5, tries for tricks along the e file, sometimes the bishop's unprotected. My queen has a retreat to b8. If not, I'm losing a queen to knight b5 here. Actually not, I could go to d5 there too. So if he plays knight b5, I have the d5 square. That actually might be a good move, like knight b5, queen d5 with the idea of like queen h5. So we have an alternative. If he had like g3, bishop f4, my queen would be nearly trapped. For g3 here looks very weakening. With my bishop on a long diagonal, I don't think trying for this cheapo bishop f4 is a very good idea for white. Normally black has to play like g6 to kind of shore up the king side to defend against this diagonal. But I'm not going to play it unless it's absolutely necessary. VSIM, welcome. We're in a very serious game here with a strong player first game. We had a kind of light day yesterday, not a lot of high-rated opponents. I don't think, well, his hit notes played me yesterday. But we haven't had too many master strength opponents lately. Sometimes in the past we've had a lot. But it seems like in the last stream or two, not so much. Strong players. Sean Shaw, his hit notes. These are players that are probably around 2200. But typically we might have more. So the only question I have for white is this rook move. You know, is it necessary? It looks okay now, you know, but I think instead of that, we'd have the rook back on f1. And Vita Levente would probably be playing like maybe bishop b1 here after rook ad1 instead of rook e1. So bishop g5, there is always this idea to try to get control of the d5 square, to try to play d5 with some kind of tactics. I can play g6. It's not like he's hanging his d4 pawn. I'd have to sacrifice my queen. Knight d4, knight d4, queen d4, bishop takes h7 doesn't look good. Could play the interesting move knight g4 that allows bishop takes h7 check. It's not too interesting after all. Rook on f to d8, anybody, allows knight e5. Do I want to worry about knight e5, for example? So I don't want to box in my rook. Maybe knight to d5 for me. Alright, I don't know. I'm getting kind of low on time. Blockading the d5 square seems like a reasonable plan. So I could recapture there a number of ways. I have to watch for bishop takes h7 check type stuff. I don't think it works here. My rook felt very vulnerable on d7. I don't really feel, I've never used this plan before. I've just seen it in some game in the database, and it feels a little awkward. I mean, with the knight coming to e5 and a lot of variations, hitting my rook on d7. I'm not sure I would repeat it, but over the board I thought I'd try something. Queen e4 threatening mate. And now we have, of course, the evergreen idea of f5, which is very weakening. Knight f6 looks the most solid. Maybe not. Maybe f5 is ultimately more solid than that. G6, very weakening, but maybe not that bad. F5. Whew. Not sure about this. I just don't really feel comfortable allowing like queen h4. Okay, here it's not so bad. Knight f4. Queen f4. King side is very weakened. h6. Actually, that's a strong move. Man, this looks a little dangerous. He's got 2-minute time advantage. And my position is a little bit sort of creaky. I don't know, f5. f5 probably not the best, but maybe black's okay. Bishop c4. Yikes. Okay. c4 allowing knight e5 there. Very, very low on time. Man, he said this is 1600 in bullet. That's hard to believe. Jeez. You're too fast to be 1600 in bullet, man. That must be from a few years ago or something. I don't know. You're a lot scarier than your typical 1600 bullet player, he said this. Damn, dude. 2000 in blitz. We got to get you in time pressure. Maybe you'll make a mistake. He's got too much time, though. He has 2 minutes. And now, that knight coming to e5 is just a monster. I mean, I can't ever see myself allowing that to happen. Getting off this diagonal. So, I don't know. I mean, white's better in most factors here with the backward pawn and the bishop versus knight, but his king side is a little bit shredded, so I don't know that it's that clear anymore. After bishop takes f3, taking out the knight that was threatening to come to g5, threatening to come to e5, kind of kills a good chunk of his chances, I would think. And our position still remains solid. Rook on e7, guardian. d5, wow. All right. This is a sacrifice or a miscalculation or an intentional Sacrifice, I don't know. Some instances he's losing a pawn after rook takes, queen takes, knight takes d5, knight takes d5. Actually, it's a little tricky. He might be able to win the pawn back here. Hopefully he gets some time pressure. This I don't know about. Okay, I guess there's a way he can win the pawn back somehow. But I'm not in love with my knight on a5, though. The king side looks good. We definitely got lucky. I mean, I didn't feel comfortable after f5, and I don't really think it was a great move. Now we got king side, big time king side deal going on here. But man, it's not that simple. It's not that simple. Whoa, he's gonna like flag me. I don't know, you don't play like you're 1700 in bullet chess. How do you have that rating? I don't understand, man. You're too fast to be 1700. Jeez. I thought I was getting checkmated for a second there. Just panicking. Jesus. He's playing like Shah and Shah. Hopefully I'm not losing. I think I should be able to at least make a draw here. But now I'm probably better. He's going to drop his H-pawn. He lost on time. But actually, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that black is winning. I mean, the king can come like here, 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 here. And it's very close. I don't know. I can get up to here. You lost on time. Ultimately, it's an unrated game, so maybe he was just like, okay, whatever. But he played so tough, I'm surprised he lost on time now. King F1. I don't know. I would think White has good drawing chances, even after dropping this pawn, which wasn't objectively necessary. Too slow, man. You had me by the clock the whole game. I don't know how. You ended up losing on time. All right, thanks for the game. I don't like my move F5. I guess I had to play something else there. It's just too weakening. But I think that your mistake may have been bishop c4 or whatever, allowing me to play knight a5 and bishop takes f3. If you don't do that, something a little more patient, maybe to keep the knight on the board. The knight coming to e5 and g5 was really scary. So Azim Soitari, I don't think he was here yesterday. I don't remember. Let me check. Yeah, I guess he was, because yeah, we played this. Okay, I got a nice game in a Lopez. All right. Knight f3, e6. This is more usual. He's playing some kind of Rogozin last time, and maybe no. Now it's different. Now it's the symmetrical English. Guys, for those of you that don't know, my name is International Master William Paschall. What is up? Person with claw hands. What are those, like lemur hands? Or those are giraffes? I thought they were hands. I need to get my eyes examined. Nice giraffes. Anyway, we have a YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube, if you'd like to check it out. We'd also like to let you know that we have tomorrow a weird opening stream at 10 a.m. CEST. Something a little different where we play openings we don't normally play, sort of more like unusual stuff. Azim Leisatari back to his usual Tarash. And that's his favorite opening. So I was surprised in my simul, and that's the other thing we do, a simul on Sundays at 6:30 p.m. CEST. Azim Leisatari played a Ragozin on Sunday, and it was like a very positional game. And normally he's playing very well tactically, and normally he's playing the Tarash, which leads to like open positions. So I was really taken by surprise on Sunday. He almost beat me in a kind of closed, more positional sort of game. We welcome all challenges between 5 and 8 minutes with a small increment. Sean Shaw's here. Girl of Chess, we haven't played in a long time. And ARW. John Capone, welcome, man. I think, when did I see you playing somebody recently? John Capone, I saw you playing in a tournament the other day I was playing in, or I don't remember. I was watching one of your games because for some reason you were maybe playing in the same tournament as me. I played just a few games in a tournament. I don't remember when it was, like Friday Classical, the monthly Classical or whatever, or yearly Classical, that was it. Okay, H6, the yearly Classical. H6, very slow. And knight e5 is interesting. Knight e5, knight takes d4, e3. Does that work? Probably not. That probably doesn't work. That's a stupid idea. Knight e5, knight takes d4. Sometimes it works, but this particular position, not so well. Maybe queen a4 check. He just plays king f8. Not too fancy. It's better for me to just play like I'm black. A lot of people play this with white. This kind of reverse Tarash thing. D takes c5 is a simple way to play. We just play like b3, bishop b2. And we don't have another way of developing the bishop now that he's played h6. I can't play bishop g5, which is my usual method. I mean, bishop f4 is possible, but I don't really like it in these Tarash positions all the time. Certain positions, maybe bishop f4. Your camera looks like it's skipping some frames again. Well, I have it on low frames per second. It's only on a low setting, so we're not getting that many frames per second. I don't know if that's why. I'm not dropping frames on the stream. Panic sent me a challenge. Yeah, Chess Panic. But the stream in general is not dropping frames. Okay, the camera, I don't know, it should be okay. I think I'm just... Bishop e6. I'm not a big fan of this double fianchetto exactly, but it's solid enough. It's solid enough for white. With white, I usually try for a little more than this. I don't know, but this is kind of how I would play if I'm black in the defensive formation. He's playing a setup that's like, well, what you would get if you played a reverse Grunfeld. You played like e3 against the Grunfeld. So I mean, here in this position, I'm kind of playing as if I was like black, and I'm just defending and trying to equalize. Not really playing for an advantage per se, but this actually looks pretty good. I don't know. Knight a4, threatening to take the bishop in some lines. Sometimes knight c5. My bishop's open. H6 ends up being kind of a wasteful move. you know, that's the way we're playing. So this looks like a really serious waste of time. It's 10 FPS. Here is -5. Just so you know. I don't think you guys can see that. My frames per second is 5. I mean, you know, I don't know how Twitch settings are. You're third in line right now. Can a mod save my place in line? I'm on the phone. Don't know how it will stay. Yeah, dude, I can do that. I can do that. Okay, so ARW, yeah, we'll keep you, when you're ready, like, come back in the stream, we'll hold your place in line. I'm surprised you lost some time there, Hisidnus. I guess you were just kind of bummed that you dropped your H-pawn. Black was out of danger when the endgame reached the point where I played knight e5. Obviously, bishop is usually stronger than a knight in an endgame with pawns on both sides, but I have a kind of force field there, and there's no way for you to win. I can try to win, and when you drop the h-pawn, maybe I have real chances to win. I'm surprised you lost on time too. I didn't understand why, you know, you decided that moment to stop making moves. Maybe maybe you need a new mouse like me. Knight a4. Azim Sitari going into the think tank here. I don't know. Kind of uncharacteristic for him. But I don't really like Black's position that much. I mean, what's the plan? You know, he can't even play like Queen d7 now because I'll just ravage his pawn structure with bishop takes f6. I mean, to me it seems much more logical to play knight e4. I don't know why knight e7 would be preferred. Knight e4 is the standard kind of outpost square. And I don't really see any reason why not to play knight e4 here. We've got a little extra time so we can think a little more deeply. I'm going to take the pawn. The bishop. It's a pawn, it's not a pawn. It's a bishop, it's not a pawn, Bill. Yeah. But anyway, it kind of could be like a pawn, I guess, if he plays d4. I make a lot of Freudian slips here on the stream, I've noticed. Very, very common. Things slip out of the mouth that kind of give clues to what I'm thinking about. A takes B, maybe that's the Freudian element of my comment, I don't know. Like, am I really thinking about him taking with a pawn? Maybe that concerned me, having to weaken my structure with like A3 or something. But I was sort of banking on the fact that his intention was to take with a knight when he plays knight d7. So, but as we know, knights on knight 3 are never good. Fischer believed that, I believe that as fact. What to do? We can develop our queen. Just start active operations here. We got the bishops, just put them on the long diagonals and take things. That's our philosophy. A lot of my favorite chess players operate like that. Spent a lot of time in New England. Our greatest resident player, Alexander Ivanov, he's getting older now. He's not as strong as he once was, but specialist in putting bishops on the long diagonal and just taking things. Also some other friends of mine. We're all big fans of double fianchettos. when you have the option. This is the optimal development for the bishops. So if you get the option to do that, I'm not saying you should play like b3 and be like Emery Tate, where he would do like b3, g3, bishop b2, bishop g2, or like the first 4 moves or something. It's not that good, you know, to do it like straight away. But when you get the option, you know, like in this Tarash or whatever, to put the bishops on the 2 long diagonals, it's usually effective. And any kind of position like this, I'm thinking about taking the bishop on e6. It might correct his pawn structure, I agree, but in the long term, my chances should be good. Now, we get the rook on the 7th, but it's sort of a hollow victory. I think if I put the rook on the 7th, he can oppose the c-file. If I try to grab pawns, he takes the 7th with his own rook, gets some sort of counterplay. I mean, objectively, maybe rook c7, rook c8, rook takes b7, rook c2, and just like rook takes a7. I don't see any way to checkmate him necessarily. f4. Actually, f4. Ooh. It wins by force. I think it wins by force, this f4. Yeah, always calculate the forcing moves first, right? It's like anti-positional, so I'm sometimes lazy to do it, but there's no good answer for this. Sirik said, I cannot stay tonight, but I wanted to check in. I have to link my Amazon Prime account to the... What benefits are there, by the way, guys? I don't know why I have Amazon Prime, since I don't really use it more than 2 months a year, but is there any benefit, concrete benefit, between linking your Amazon Prime account and your Twitch account? Can you guys explain that to me? It's a very bad thing about the Amazon Prime is that you can't use it when you're like living abroad. They have like a couple of movies you can watch just to kind of throw you a bone, but basically it's a very bad feature of Amazon Prime that it's just useless when you're like abroad. So bishop h3 wins a piece, right? Whew, that's pretty brutal. It was better to play queen f6, I guess, just lose a pawn for black. This is going to lose at least a piece. Twitch Prime equals no ads, so Twitch Prime. 1 free sub per month. You love the no ads. Interesting. Okay, I didn't know that. I'm probably not allowed to use it because I'm like living abroad or something. There'll be some stupid feature. I don't know why I keep the Amazon Prime at all, actually. It would make sense if I was living in the US year-round, but... Alright, that's it, man. F5. Game over. Not a good game. Azim Lisutari unable to reproduce the monster game he played on me against me on Sunday. But I like the opening better, man. I mean, I think you should do that. The Rogozin, Queen's Gambit. It's much more solid than the Tarash. Now you run out of squares here, but I've got no way to put them away. No way to put him away here. G4. Rook C3. What am I supposed to play? Like Rook F3? Rook F3 looks reasonable. With the idea of H4. The Grand Tour will be on Prime soon. Yeah, they have a lot of TV shows on Prime, but you're not allowed to watch them when you're in Europe. That's the problem. H4. The European rules. I mean, what they're afraid people are going to like give out their accounts to people abroad and stuff? Or But you could do that at home anyway, so I don't really understand what's the difference. No mate. I have bishop h7 check. That's the best. That is a mate. It should be a mate eventually. Yeah. It should be mate in 6 or something. Yeah. Less than 6. Pre-move. Alright. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think you should try to keep playing some different thing like the Rogozin. You did pretty well with that. This Tarish hasn't really scored well for you. Shansha is a tough player. Yesterday I had a tough game against Shansha where it gets down to time, and like we both have increments usually, and he's very good at just like playing quick with increment. But I was better yesterday. Okay, let's see what's up today. I want to keep trying to play the Spanish, I think. Practicing new openings. The more openings you can play and the more versatile you are, the more difficult it is in tournament chess I'm talking about. You know, in serious, like from the aspect of looking at it as a tournament chess player, a serious competitor, it's really important to play like a diversity of defenses. And we see this in openings. I see this in modern top players like Carlsen and Nakamura. Whereas the older generation of players have more limited opening repertoires, it seems like the younger generations are more flexible, you know, in playing a lot of different openings. And I think that's really, if you want to be a serious competitor, this whole old school style of playing like 1 or 2 main openings is something of a disadvantage. So that's why I'm starting to play the black side of the Royal Pez, because just playing the Sicilian, it's not enough. You've got to really have more than one main openings. You've got to have like 3 or 4 at least things that you play. That makes it hard for your opponent to prepare for you. B5. You know, I really never realized until I started playing this with black how weakening B5 really feels. When I was playing white as an amateur, I always thought, oh, that's just such a normal move. You know, it never really like dawned on me that, you know, B5 is such an extreme weakening of black's pawn structure. But if you look at it from the perspective of an advanced player, it's a very dramatic weakening in black's pawn structure, the B5. I have no interest in playing like the Marshall for black, memorizing like 30 moves of theory. I want to play a kind of strategic game. Yeah, but for amateur players like us, it's difficult to become proficient in many different openings. Well, I mean, you know, yeah, it's always more difficult for amateurs than professionals, I guess. You don't have as much time to devote to chess. That's not your job, right? So, C3, castles, and I mean, black has such a wealth of possibilities in this opening. I agree with the classical argument that this opening is the most important for all levels of chess players to analyze. I think that it's very, very deep and very strategic. All the pawns on the board, closed position, lots of plans for both sides. You can really learn a lot. Now D4. I like how Shansha just plays every variation. He's like refuting your argument. He knows every opening. He's trying to refute your argument. Last time he played H3. Now he's playing D4 as well. I don't really know the theory in this line, so he might know that. You know, he decided to play something that I don't really know. Very practical. So white, you know, doesn't lose this pawn on e4 because of bishop d5. That's a very important tactic to know about. Now the problem is that I don't really know anything here. I don't know any theory about this variation. So I'm not a true classical Ruy Lopez player. And if we think about it, I guess you could try to reinforce your center with something like knight d7, and what I have to mention is yesterday's game with Azim Lisutari, where I played white and he played bishop g4 in a slightly different position before I played d4, and I talked about the problem with the bishop on g4 is that the whole white square complex of squares on the queen side for black can become weak. So that's the idea here. I think I'm supposed to like at some point take on d4 and transfer the pawn structure to some other sort of structure. But I don't know. I don't see how that could work here. I mean, I could play knight a5, bishop c2, knight c4. I guess this is theory. I'm supposed to play like knight a5 and attack the bishop, then attack the other bishop, send it back or something like that. And we sort of maneuver and then reset and start maneuvering again. But this may be inaccurate move order for me. Maybe an inaccurate move order. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do there. Rook e8? I mean, what's the move for black in that position that makes sense, if not knight a5? Maybe e takes d first and then knight a5? Give up the center and play knight a5? Sort of strange. Yeah, I've just been caught in a variation. I don't really know the theory here. Welcome, everyone. The Ruy Lopez is amazing, the whole chess in one opening. I think I just played like this line last game. Wow, interesting. It's quite well known. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that we're playing it for the surprise value here. I just want to learn. Now, I don't understand last move. Somebody has to explain to me why white doesn't have pawn takes pawn here. How is it that white doesn't have pawn takes pawn here? I mean, I don't know what I'm supposed to play in this position, honestly. Rook e8 or something. I just don't understand. Like, what happens here? Pawn takes pawn. If I take back, he trades queens and then takes on e5. And I'm sacking a pawn or something? Can I sacrifice a pawn here? What? That doesn't seem right. I have to take on f3 and give up my bishop pair. I think this is a mistake, but I'm not certain. I mean, I've definitely seen this maneuver, knight a5, knight c4, but I'm thinking maybe it's like a move later or something. You know, like I jumped the gun and played it a move too early. More or less. That's what I'm wondering here. Did I just jump the gun? So with this move knight d7, I'm trying to secure the e5 square. It's a little bit passive. But with his bishop on b3, he doesn't have this diagonal. He doesn't have this menace on the white squares. I don't know. I just think that this d takes e5 is just so strong for white. Maybe I don't know, some secret there, or maybe that both of us don't really know the line, but when I played knight a5, I was like, oh shit, I think I'm just like losing my e5 pawn. Or I have to do something. I'm not losing it. I mean, I can play bishop takes f3. It's it may not be that bad for black, but I don't think it's good. You know, that's the moral of the story. Now we have the interesting possibility of trading pieces for multiple exchanges. A tense game. Yeah, I think I'm going to go for this because I'm getting lower on time and I feel more comfortable against Shansha in a kind of technical position. He's quite competent tactically and in open positions, but I don't think in sort of strategic positions and like technical positions is his forte. I'm not saying he's bad in endgames or something, but I'm also a minute behind on the clock, so I think anyway this plan is pretty reasonable for black, but it makes sense to trade pieces when you have slightly less space. Well, Super Patzer, I know that normally the bishop goes to b7, but in this particular variation, bishop g4, that much I'm sure is right. About the only thing I'm certain of here is the move bishop g4. But after that, I forgot. You know, I saw some game. I remember when I had one of my worst tournaments of my life at the Marshall Chess Club in 2003. I had kind of difficult personal problems. I wasn't in good form, and I was having a terrible tournament. I remember watching, while I was losing one of my games, watching Stephen Muhammad and Larry Christensen play a game in that line. Larry must have been white, and Muhammad must have been black. But I can't remember for the life of me. Beyond the move, what's up now? Just try to develop some pieces here. I can't remember beyond the move bishop e3. I swear that later black played knight a5, but how do I defend my e5 pawn in the interim? And giving up the pawn center with e5 takes d4 would be okay if I could play c5 and reach some kind of Benoni structure. But we'll have to look it up. It's a pretty well-known main line. It's kind of weird that I couldn't remember what one more move is in that variation. The bishop takes f3, queen takes f3. You have knight takes b3. Well, that's my problem, Hisidnunts. What happens there? After bishop takes f3, queen takes f3, knight takes b3, he doesn't have like pawn takes f6 or whatever? What a move, maintaining the tension there, bishop d3. Trying to get everything on dark squares. I am stuck with these pawns on the white squares, which I'm not really happy about, with his bishop on the white squares. I don't really want my pawns to be fixed on white squares. Mubat strikes again. Okay, I cannot afford to let my pawn structure get ruined here with g takes f, so my knight not great on d7 anyway, honestly. I mean, sometimes I was recapturing with the knight on c5, but wow, d5, this move. Maybe he felt like he had to do that. Probably not a bad move, I guess. C4 pawn sacrifice. Anybody? It's not actually a pawn sacrifice. Wow. We got to get some counter pressure on this pawn. Still unable to get my pawns off the white squares. Well, F3. This position is really difficult for black. Maybe it's not that easy for white either to make progress. He's putting a lot of pawns on white squares. I feel like that should give me a chance, even if he wins a pawn or something. That's a lot of pawns for white on white squares. Now, C4. Clearly wrong. That's got to be a mistake. That's the first really bad move Shah made this game, to play C4 there. He still might have the advantage. But I feel like at least there's hope now. We have good chances to save this. Wow, he's like a minute and a half ahead on the clock. I mean, white playing, even with some mistakes, he's still better. Because I have to play A4. Not that easy for white to make progress here. That's the argument. I mean, I don't know. How is he going to make progress? With this bad bishop. His bishop is so bad, I don't know how he wins. Like a fortress draw. G4 is sort of a mistake. Well, I don't think I'm going to take a draw now. Alright, I'll take your draw. But you're worse now. I mean, you could even lose. Probably not. I can't lose here. I mean, I could get my knight into f4. You might be in trouble here, actually, if you're not careful. So g4 was a really bad move. But actually, knight there, you can probably not lose. If you played accurately, bishop e8. You have to play knight h7, bishop e8 right away to stop me from playing knight f8, knight g6. And it looks like white can't lose, probably. But you have to be accurate in that moment to play bishop e8. Okay, that was tough enough. 8-2, learning experience. Girl of Chess from Turkey, welcome. It looks like a Maratzian game, exactly. Yeah, I know how to do like a dark square blockade. That's my speciality, yeah. Yeah, it looks like exactly, it's one of those Maratzis where I'm playing against like a computer that puts too many of its pawns on white squares. Wow, another c3 Sicilian. Yeah, the last game, the draw with Shansha there, it reminds me of playing computers and like the generation, 10 years ago, or the generation of computers like 10 or 15 years ago, they would go into endings like that thinking that they were better, or 20 years ago, and then they realize, oh shit, I'm up a pawn, but I'm like slightly worse or just making a draw at best. Although computers, I will say, are notoriously good at those kind of positions. They can make you even feel like you're fighting for a draw as black in a position that's really almost unlosable. Girl of Chess is repeating Hisset Nuntz's game. Interesting. Wise draw for there. Yeah, I mean, if he makes one slip, I mean, if he doesn't play bishop e8 when I play knight h7, force me to play f6 there, my knight can't really get dominated, so I can't get into like Zugzwang. Well, my knight can get dominated, actually. Knight h7, bishop e8, f6, bishop g6, knight f8, bishop f5, and I'm in Zugzwang, right? I have to be careful not to let that happen. But come to think of it, maybe knight h7 is a mistake. Maybe I should move my king or something. Knight takes d4. This is a little unusual. I mean, mostly players are taking with the pawn. I'm sure this might be a variation too. But objectively, I mean, the main line is pawn takes and that IQP position that we had against Hisset Nuntz. Okay. This is safe, though. I mean, it looks like a pretty safe way for white to play. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. Like taking, probably taking. It looks pretty harmless, though. The nightmare of trying to win with black against the c3 Sicilian is, ooh, that's not fun. Yeah, that's why I was very happy when I beat Strapunski, But in that game, I mean, in a fighting game where white takes risks, it's not that big a deal to win, you know. But in a line like this, where white is taking no risk, it's a nightmare to try to beat a low-rated player in this variation. Here, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. What, like bishop d7 or something? Looks really lame. Bishop d7, knight a3, or... If e6, knight to b5 actually looks slightly problematic. Maybe not. I guess not. e6 is okay. e6, e5. Maybe e5. A little like higher risk with the e5. Slightly higher risk. e5, knight b5, queen takes d1, check, excuse me. Knight d5, only move. Followed by a6, something like that. It's probably theory. I guess this is probably theory. Knight takes c6. What about knight takes c6? Queen takes c6. That's okay for black, though. Okay, I guess this is book. I mean, at first I was afraid to play e5, but looking at it, it's probably theory. e5, what are you going to do? Knight to b5, trade, knight d5, threatening bishop on e3, so you have to deal with that. And, yeah. Taking on c6. Queen takes c6, knight d2, or something very safe for white. I'm not really sure what's the best move, honestly. e6 is kind of passive. Knight takes d4 is really lame. But again, like, the problem for black is like trying to win in this kind of ending where you have white with like a queenside majority, and it's a total nightmare. I think if you played against a weaker player with black in the c3 Sicilian, maybe this entire variation isn't really a great choice. You should play something like really dynamic, maybe g6 or d6 or something unclear. His innocence, when he was a student, he played the c3 Sicilian against a 2100 player, but at the end of the game, we drew. He said to me angrily, "You're not even trying to win." Yeah, that's like a famous expression of a certain Russian grandmaster I know. Yeah, the Alapin is very frustrating. But there are two breeds of Alapin players with white, you know. There are specialistas like Vida Levente, Tivyakov, Pavasevich, who play it as a kind of complete, you know, winning attempt with white. And then there are like the second level of players who play it like for a draw. Not necessarily play it for a draw, but they're just playing, you know, to keep a really safe position. There's more than one way to play the white side of the c3 Sicilian. That's what I'm trying to say. I mean, you got some real maniacs out there who studied some very sharp lines to come up with new ideas. Now, queen takes d1 check, even, is okay for black. I mean, even that is probably okay for black. B takes c6 is even that is probably okay for black. Queen takes c6 was my intention. I don't know why. In a way, it's kind of weird. Keeps the queens on, and it keeps pressure on g2. I guess that's the advantage of it. The one downside I was thinking was that after queen takes c6, my e5 pawn is like a little extended and difficult to protect in some lines. I don't know, man. I mean, queen takes d1 check. Such a terrible structure for black. Just not fun. All right, we'll just go with my original intention, but I'm really not sure which way to play there. I mean, all those moves are difficult to call. I don't know. I'm going to be very curious to check, the theory here. Probably not that many games in this particular position, but I bet there's like 10 or 15 games in the chess database with knight takes d4 e5 at least, and it doesn't seem like a very ambitious variation for white, but nevertheless important and critical that black is accurate here. I'm not in love with my structure after queen takes d1, check b takes c, but black has some activity there. The pieces are pretty active, so I think that's a valid try. And even b takes c. She played this move that looks like a trap. The thing is, if I play a6, you play bishop b5. I take, you take. I play queen takes g2, and now both your rooks are hanging. And after rook takes a8, I'm probably winning. So a6, I mean, a6 isn't forced either, by any stretch of the imagination. Probably a weakening move, something of like a waste of time. The only other alternative, of course, is bishop d7. But bishop d7 may be a better move. a6 doesn't contribute anything to black's position, fundamentally. This is a non-developing move, a6. And a4 is a good move. I mean, this makes me think that she knows what she's doing, because one of my main concepts is that knight a3, I would have bishop takes a3. But now that situation is gone because you can recapture with a rook. So a4 makes sense on two levels. I mean, just the tactical level of bishop b5 and also the positional level of playing knight a3. Also advancing the queenside majority. So I think that a4 is like best move probably for white. Now f3 may be necessary, a little bit passive. I feel like black should be okay after this. Do we want to think about a6 is bad now? It looks like a6. I mean, it's not necessary. Actually, a6 is playable, but she's got knight coming to c4, and I have more weaknesses than I had before. So allowing bishop b5 with tempo is a big question. I don't know. I just have to make a move. I mean, trading pieces. It's a powerful bishop on c5. Again, a6 feels like weakening. But now white gets his tempo with bishop b5. So, I don't know. Yeah, those lines with d takes c5. I mean, actually, in this line, black has to deal with that right away. If we look, if she does this immediately, this is a very common line, d takes c right away on move 6, and then move 5. Bishop b5. Queen c7. We've used up all our time trying to figure out the theory here. But I try to play the best moves, and I try to learn from these games. C3 Sicilian man, I mean, I just have never been able to really stick with one variation and been happy with it. I think that probably knight f6 on move 2 is black's best and aggressive, dynamic move. But there's just so much theory to really learn there. result of the position is really just that white has this queenside majority and slightly better chances in an ending. Perhaps. I've lost really more games against the c3 Sicilian than anything else. I've tried knight f6, I've tried d5 a lot, I've played all different versions of d5, e6, g6, bishop g4, bishop f5. I think I might have started the recent trend with bishop f5 was a move I dug up some years ago, and it became after I started playing it. It was originally like played by Damaso or somebody. When I started playing it, then I realized after I stopped playing chess for a few years that it had suddenly become a major variation in top player c3 Sicilian games, which was kind of weird, you know. I was playing setups based on like knight f6 and bishop f5 before everybody else. I have games in the database you can see back in like 2005, maybe 2006, 2007 or something, but it didn't become popular till maybe a few years later. And that's another interesting line that's really not clear, that it's easy for white to get an advantage against that. Now knight a3. At this point I'm wondering, you know, if that bishop on b5 is even in a good position. So I don't have to trade pieces. White's king is still in the center, so I'll keep pieces on the board. Maybe we'll play for the dark square blockade again, a la Marazzi. Even Carlsen has difficulties against c3 Sicilian. Hey, Resignanian has no sound. Yeah, I think we're okay here. Resignanian, do you play the c3 Sicilian too? Wow, look at this, man. Castles queenside. Risky. That is risky. I've got bishop a4, but I don't. I have to be accurate now. Maybe rook c8 and then a6. Wow, we're down to 23 seconds with an increment. Wow, there's only a 2-second increment. I generally ask you guys to give me a 3-second increment, so this is a little fast. We may have to forego some counter commentary. I wanted to say forego some counterplay. Awkward position. a6. Well, she negated the threat of bishop b3. But I don't think that's White's only problem. I mean, there are more general problems, right? Than just this minority. The minority attack. It looks like an open Sicilian now where black has a raging attack. That's what it's basically become. White doesn't have an attack, black has a strong attack. Not that clear, I guess. I have rook check. Oh man, that's some brave concept there. Oh, this way. Queen takes. All right, I'm not going to be fancy. Wow. Yeah, it got a little bit scary at the end there. There's even like some mate threats. I have to watch out for like queen d8 check, which would work except for the fact that I have queen back to f8. So, good game, girl of chess. A little too fast for me, the 2-second increment. ARW, are you here, or is he asking me to wait for him more, or is he back? Let's see if he's here or not. I'm going to play e4. ARW would ask for a reprieve and to stay in the list. Okay. So, lots of players in the challenge list. 7 players. We've got an hour and 10 minutes left. By the way, after refreshing sound works, yeah, I get a lot of that same problem. Sometimes it's the sound, sometimes it's just the chat in the Twitch chat kind of like stops feeding or something. Yeah, usually just refreshing it sort of solves all our problems. I prefer the St. George with A6 and B5, honestly. I'm with Miles on that. Tony Miles drew a parallel between, talking about the St. George and in an old book I read. He drew a parallel between A6 and B5 and the B6 Owens defense. And in some key lines, it's just the St. George is actually better because you have more space. I've never been a big fan of the Owens defense. I guess it's playable. I know that Christian Bauer has played it a lot and wrote a book about it or something, but, I just objectively don't really think that it's that good for black. Here, knight f3. Or should I play c3 first? Interesting question. I don't know. Guys, welcome. We're going to be doing a Blitz classical weird opening stream tomorrow on Wednesdays. Every Wednesday, I switch it up and I do a stream where we just play unusual stuff. So, gambit openings I don't normally play, like the Dutch or the Birds opening, all kinds of weird stuff. It's not too extreme, but, outside our normal repertoire. So check it out tomorrow, Wednesday, 10 a.m. CEST. You can also check out my videos on YouTube, and don't forget to support the stream if you can, and support my YouTube efforts with a donation via PayPal. I appreciate it if you do. And those of you who have helped to support the stream, much appreciated. So c3, actually looking at this position, I'm not sure. If I'm supposed to play c3 first or knight f3. The last time I played this, I was successful. I played against the Vietnamese GM Bui Vinh. That was, like 7 years ago. I managed to win against him in the first Saturday GM tournament. The score in the database looked a little weird, though. I'm not sure they got the game right. c5. Sometimes my handwriting is like atrocious, so if people try to record my games in databases, from tournaments and stuff, oftentimes it's like totally wrong. A lot of the moves, they try to reconstruct it, but they can't read my writing. So it's not unusual for my games to be recorded incorrectly in chess databases. Database, what do you call it? Okay, c5, so here, with the queen on e2, a lot of people try to go with these like d5 ideas, but I don't think it's that big a deal. Come to think of it though, what does black play if I play d5 here? Well, bishop d6, maybe something like that loses a piece. Queen c7 normally we would see. So d5 is interesting. Black doesn't have as much counterplay as in like typical. Although he could play take, queen e7. I guess I'll just stick with the normal plan. I'm not going to go outside my comfort zone here with d5, although I faced a lot of those ideas in St. George type positions. I've seriously played the St. George in maybe like 10 tournament games against master strength players with a good score. The only time I ever lost was to Josh Friedel, and that game was a little bit dicey. Like I had some chances in that game, so I never like got blown out playing a6 b5 against anybody. Yeah, his not having your games in the database is probably not bad. Well, sometimes I wonder, certain players from certain countries, most people don't do it on purpose, but I have the feeling that some countries where players have like three names, almost like they purposely like do it to confuse other pro players. If you think about like Latin players and Indian players in particular, many cases they have like three names, and it's really really difficult to weed out their games in the databases. They get confused with other players. It can be really difficult. So it's your biggest advantage is if you're from like India or a Latin country where you have three names, because it's sometimes a nightmare to try to prepare for those players. C takes d4. The handwriting can only go so far. So we're actually going to get to we may get to the position that Miles was talking about. Basically, his idea is that, if you've played a6 and b5, and then you play knight c6, and white has to play a3 to stop knight b4. Well, in that situation, black can play d5, e5, and then knight a5. And with the pawn on b5 and knight on a5, you can play actively with plans like knight c4. But in the Owens defense, you don't have that option available. And that's really Miles' argument for why the Owens defense is kind of inferior to the St. George, essentially. You can't do active plans with b5, knight c6, and knight a5. Okay, so back to reality here now. Knight c3. There are some different problems that could arise, though. If knight c3, knight c6. h6, it's somewhat of a weakening move. Black wants to stop things from coming to g5. I'm not a big fan of h6. I prefer to play sometimes, let's say, f6 later on. Now you'd never really be able to consider that. It's going to be very hard for black to move the f-pawn in this kind of line in the future. I mean, I understand your fear about the g5 square, but I think this may be a recommendation. I don't know. Bishop b4, it's fine with me. I'm gonna castle. Maybe there's some kind of idea behind this for black, but it looks like a promising position for white, I think. ARW, we've never played before. Okay. Wow, you're 1,300. Very few blitz games, but as long as you guys have 50 games in whatever time control we're playing, that's what I really ask for. Not to play like totally new accounts. ARW is got plenty of games, 150. Yeah, okay. In French Opens, the Russians used to handle score sheets with Cyrillic initials and atrocious handwriting, of course. You should see like the grandmasters from my old school days. I mean, watching my former coach, shall we call him, Gingiashvili, his handwriting, like in a score sheet, there's no way you could read it. It's absolutely. I mean, I played many games against Gingy too, even before I worked with him, and there's no way you could possibly decipher what was on the score sheet. I mean, and a lot of chess arbiters would kind of give grandmasters sort of, they would give them a kind of break, because they're GMs or whatever. They would be like more lenient with their handwriting requirements. I mean, normally you really have to write clearly. It was absolutely illegible. I'm not even sure if there were really letters or he just like scratched like just random scratches on the paper. Knight h7. This looks pretty bad for black, honestly. d5 comes to mind. But maybe, I don't know, d5, pawn takes d5, knight takes d5. Alright, let's go for it. I hope I'm not overextending myself here. I insta-took. I would at least give a passing thought to knight e7 in that position. At least a passing thought. I know that it might allow a really powerful pawn on d6, but I think you should at least consider it. There may be just a good pawn structure for me. Kingside attack. All my pieces are raking the kingside. This looks like it's virtually lost for black strategically. I think h6 and knight h7, you've got to play more actively. Objectively, maybe black's not totally lost yet. It looks very precarious. There are tactics for white popping up. I'm very much a believer in accumulation of advantages, and you will know that if you watch me play. But bishop c5 seems a solid move. b4 sacrifices, perhaps. Interesting. I'm kind of getting low on time here. Seems like a minor issue, but it might turn out to be important. Not that easy for me to make progress. Only a minute left, and he's got bishop c5 and like simplifying move with knight to d4. I don't see any real tactics for white here. Knight f6 check. Take check, king f8. That actually looks pretty interesting. Bishop takes check. Wow. I'm running out of time. I'm just running out of time. I don't know. I'm sure that I had some tactics I can't find. White is better, but I'm not sure that it's necessarily enough to win by force, per se. I wouldn't like your chances against a David Navarra in this position. Now, knight g5, wow. That is a provocative move. I do not want to wow. 34 seconds. Whew, man, this is pretty tough. ARW 1336 in blitz. He's got some really nasty threats here. I guess I'm like losing a piece now. That's pretty impressive. I'm glad it wasn't a rated game. Chess panic. I don't really have a comment. I don't know what to say. I mean, I don't really know what to say. I was clearly better, but black put together perfect sequence there, and I lost on time and probably losing a piece. C4, no comment on that. I don't know what to really answer. First time I played that opponent. I'm not going to speculate. D4. One day Resignania will come to Budapest again. I didn't see you mention it earlier. Oh, I guess you're just like saying you. I thought you were implying that you mentioned that you've been here before, but you probably didn't talk about it till now. Chess Panic, it's A3 Petrosian variation. So Resignania has been to Budapest again, but were you in Budapest for chess or just for other reasons? Yeah, last game I just kind of went into the think tank there a little too long. But I saw this whole idea of this knight g5 and knight d4, and I realized that I had some technical problems. And that's why I got into such bad time pressure. D6. That's a very passive move for black. We don't have queen. Actually, we have queen c2. We have maybe bishop g5. And g3 is not bad either. Is black really going to take on f3? Well, maybe. I wouldn't want to play that position. ARW for black. You're violating like all sorts of fundamental principles with moves like h6 and knight h7. So I wouldn't take it too seriously if you won that game against me, because I wouldn't touch your position with a 10-foot pole. And I mean, that's somebody who plays similar positions talking. So don't do knight h7. You got lucky against me or whatever, but that is not a good way to play the game. Knight h7 is not okay for black. I kind of let you do whatever you wanted there at the end, but I seriously would caution you to ever play that in a serious game. You're violating several fundamental principles of chess. Playing knight h7. But it worked out. Castles. Yeah, he didn't opt for bishop takes f3. I mean, this is really an idea, I guess, to take on f3 and play maybe c5 or something. Still, I guess it's not really the best situation, because black has got kind of weak squares on the white squares. I don't blame him. I don't think I would do bishop takes f3 in that kind of position. Now we've transposed to, it can transpose to a normal Queen's Indian. A3 doesn't, A3 doesn't help me much in this position basically. So I'm in danger of getting transposed to a normal line where I'm just I played the move a3. Wasted my time basically. Queen c2. Yeah, this looks a little silly. So maybe I have to take and play b4. Try to use this queenside a3 move somehow. I don't know how I'm gonna make this become a profitable move for white. Not really sure. No, I think in my position against ARW, I mean, I used too much time, and when I played the bishop e3, I didn't want to play that move already. You know, I think that white has to solve the position with tactics probably there. And I tried to make some routine moves, but this silly knight g5 plan and threats of like knight h3 check and queen g5 mate and whatnot. I mean, there's a lot of sudden tactics, and the black pieces start to coordinate in that position very, very well suddenly. So I needed to solve my problems with tactics, and I just didn't have the time. But I wouldn't want to play that position for black. So here, again, I'm kind of like thinking I've got a good opening, but I maybe not, because a3 just doesn't really benefit white in any way. f5 and chess panic is transposed to a totally normal kind of Queen's Indian, where he's got a weakness on e6 that I don't really like for black. It's not that easy for me to exploit it, though. Queen b3, not so easy for white. Rook e1, knight c6, for example. I could play knight to d2, knight e1, trading the bishops. It's just not a very, this is not a very exciting position. A lot of closed games today. Well, the last game wasn't closed. I just took too much time in the Owens defense. Just took way too much time there. I just should play faster. Knight to d2. This looks pretty lame for white, actually. Maybe knight e1. Idea knight takes g2. Doesn't look like white has any realistic advantage here if black plays accurately. Pi Standards asked me if I ever encounter totally new and interesting ideas when playing rookies on the stream. Do you ever use those ideas in your over-the-board games? Well, yeah. I mean, I think that everything goes into the file, but I haven't had many, you know, over-the-board games since I started streaming. I started in the end of February, and I've only played in one tournament in that time. So, but over time, I'm sure, you know, over time, if I continue to stream, absolutely. I mean, there will be situations. More and more so, I think that the amateur players, you know, actually always have been able to learn opening theory. Some of them are even experts. You know, you can have players who are not that strong players who become like opening theory experts. It's a different thing. It's not just about. It's not only about playing chess. It's also about memorizing and maybe specializing in one particular thing, like the opening per se. Look at this now, black. Really making my life difficult. Chess panic. Just an absolutely harmless position. I have to play this pathetic move. E3 is just gross for white. Maybe knight f4. Knight f4. I don't know. Knight f4 is interesting. Alright. Attacking the weakness here. And threatening tactics. I also have knight h5 sometimes. But yeah, I think you're right, you know. Bishop e3 was a blunder, and I should have bishop takes h6. Railbird 80, I saw it. I want to tell you. But, you know, when I sat there with like 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever, and I was like out calculating knight f6 check, I realized that, you know, after pawn takes f6 check, king f8, bishop takes h6 check, I had these raging, you know, threats. And then I was like, oh yeah, well, I could do bishop takes h6. But then, like, the practical considerations came into my mind. You know, I was like, oh, I have just 2 minutes left, and and I can't really calculate that variation that easily to the end here, and I'm thinking, oh well, this player is weaker than me. I'll probably be able to outplay them, so I should just make a simple move. So I didn't really have time to calculate the consequences of bishop takes h6, but honestly I saw it. But it was a fantastic move, you know. I mean, bishop takes h6, it doesn't even really threaten that much. You know, that's the problem with that move. I mean, it wins a pawn, but I'm not like taking a piece or like threatening mate or anything, you know. It's kind of a quiet pawn grab, bishop takes h6. That's really the problem with it. Now I have knight takes e6, queen takes e6, d5. This was my intention. I'm not sure. We could also play knight h5. But I mean, this is more concrete. So not to sound like I see everything, but I saw it. But I didn't think it was that forcing, number one. And number two, I'm just running out of time. So I made the simple move, bishop e3. But I have to be, yeah, like I said, I mean, I knew there were tactics there. I was hoping there was something better than bishop takes h6, actually, there, Railbird. But it kind of hurts his king side pretty seriously. I guess that it takes away all the knight g5 ideas he has. It's pretty relevant. But, you know, you're also looking at making a sacrifice where you're making a sacrifice that might open lines against my king. And so it's intuitively, you know, you're intuitively thinking, well, this is kind of dangerous, you know, maybe I'm like opening up lines against my own king. So a lot of that kind of went through my mind as I played the routine move bishop e3, which I hated. You know, I didn't want to play bishop e3 by any stretch of the imagination. But I decided to do it out of like practicality, and wasn't. It's just hard for me to believe that black has a good game. I mean, he's got the more exposed king, bad pawn structure. It feels like he's violated a lot of principles. So I thought, what's the worst thing that can happen if I make a kind of like routine move, you know? But suddenly black has all sorts of threats with the long diagonal and the knight on c6 to d4. And I realized too late that I'm in just an extremely precarious situation. And finally I just dropped a piece, but there wasn't really an obvious defense. There might have been something more subtle there. Now here we are, the smoke clears, chess panic is played well. I'm not sure I have any advantage here, to be honest. It's dropping a pawn. That could be dangerous. Just dropping a pawn there is always a bad idea. Rook e1. What's my idea? Queen d3 maybe? Some kind of tricky threats for white. This is awkward. Queen d3 probably not that great. I wanted to play e3, but it weakens my king side. I like the way that black played this, though. He's totally okay here. I'm not saying that either side is clearly better, but I don't think that black is worse. This isn't anything serious necessarily, the pawn on c6. Maybe I should have played e3 straight away. I wanted to include threats of queen a6. That's probably a good way to get checkmated here for white. So we've got to be very careful. I played rook a8. I guess he wants to play maybe a5 at some point. I don't think it's particularly relevant. A5 may lock the queen side. I'm not sure if that's what he wants to do, but he's wasting some time. Played a6. I guess he's listening to my commentary and then like he's deciding, oh, alright, I'm going to try h4 here. But that's kind of risky. Alright, never mind. h4 unnecessarily weakening my king side. We have a nice endgame here, semi-endgame. Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty balanced, although it may be one of those positions where white's a little better with the space advantage. And I'm being pessimistic after last game. I felt that black should have been more aggressive already here. No, now he's weakening his king side with g6. Looks like he's starting to lose it. He's too hesitant. I mean, I feel like maybe even g5 would be a better move than g6, trying to create some threats on the king side. He didn't want to take any risks. But here, if he doesn't... No, b5, okay, maybe b5 is the problem. b5, b6... Well, the space advantage ends up looking like I'm better now, you know. I've got all sorts of things. Just rook d4, b5, hanging a queen. It's always good. But I think that the chess panic played well and just kind of drifted. He just drifted. He didn't want to do anything decisive. He didn't want to take any kind of decisive actions. Queen a2. I'm also being very hesitant here. But he's in a dangerous situation now. And David Navarra comes to mind again. What would he do? It looks dangerous for black. I mean, rook takes d6. Anybody want to try a rook sacrifice? It's definitely worth considering. Oh my gosh. Rook takes d6, takes, king f7, c7. Goodness. Take. My pawn's not that far advanced, so I don't know. If the pawn was on b6, on b5 already, I would definitely do rook takes d6. I feel like I need another tempo there. Creating a really powerful passed pawn. Can't do it right away. Maybe the ending's good enough. Queen d5. Take. This powerful passed pawn. Not that clear though. Not that clear. Maybe it's not a good idea to trade queens here. I'm actually panicking myself, playing for cheapos with queen b2. A little bit playing for cheapos here. Wow, he has this. I don't think that works. He's panicking, alright. Chess panic. Actually, I have a lot of moves. Maybe simpler to play queen f2, but it's alright. No real threats. I thought I lost on time again. Anyway, I don't know. I don't think he should be like really worse in that game. I think he just needed to make up his mind, you know, to play decisively on the king side. My king side was a little bit weakened, and maybe to play aggressively to try to get some play. He was indecisive with like rook e8, rook a8. Maybe just sacrifice the a pawn. Forget about playing a6 and rook a8. Need to play more dynamically there. Okay, Andrea, I'm going to play e5 again, working on the e5. Last time I played the Petrov, I think, against Andrea, but this time, knight c6. So, bishop c4. You played it against the Petrov as well. It's more appropriate here. You know, I don't recommend Andrea doing bishop c4 against the Petrov. So, if you really want something solid, you can play the Hungarian defense with bishop e7. Let's try that. You know, maybe Andrea doesn't face this very often. It's a little passive, and you're going to play without a lot of space for black, but you never have to worry about any kind of very sharp lines. You know, so right away, I mean, fundamentally, I think that white needs to play for d4, Andrea. Not that there's anything wrong with d3, but if you want to try to take advantage of my passive opening, I think that's a better try. Okay, d3 is good too. I shouldn't say that it's bad. It's a different way of playing. It's more like quiet, but solid at the same time. Nothing wrong with d3. I think d4 is more critical. a3. Preserving the diagonal for his bishop, avoiding tricks like knight a5, very good. White is slightly better. Most people don't want to play this variation for black because it is kind of passive. You don't have a lot of space. So I would normally prefer to play the two knights defense. Bishop e7 isn't a move in the limelight, but I think it's something that everybody should learn to play, because you don't always want to play these crazy variations of the fried liver and whatnot. Just play chess, you know. You sometimes just want to be able to play chess. So I think we can learn a lot more from playing a full-blooded, wow, h4. Steinitz, it's like Steinitz when he was like in junior high school or something. h4 is a really radical move. Shirov would probably like that, in spirit at least. Have you guys seen the crazy game that Rapport played and lost horribly against Shirov in the Olympiad? That was a funny, nice move by Shirov, h4, but it was a situation where Rapport's knight was on e7 in a Lopez, and it's really grotesque. I mean, h4 was really nasty there for black. This is a different situation. I mean, the g4 square looks very weak. We can stop h5 and play bishop g4. And now we start the maneuvering program. Knight h5 is interesting. Knight d4 is interesting. Knight to d4. Bishop takes d4, pawn takes d4. Should be okay for black, I imagine. What are our alternatives? Knight h5. Not trying to win a pawn with knight h5, just kind of get a blockade on the position again. Maybe knight d7, but that's moving away from the king side, so I'm going to go with this. Close center, opponent's king committed to the king side, launch attack, why not? I don't think there's anything wrong with the idea of attacking, but I'm not sure if it's... Yeah, I mean, Shirov might buy into this concept. I think the jury is out on it. His h5. I'm definitely, you know, in the mood for some pawns here. There's an argument for like h6 though, maybe first. Why? All right, we're gonna take. You're gonna have to show me You have to show me something here, because I just don't think this is enough for white. But I think the Hissidnunts has a point. I mean, there's worse things white could do, you know, than sack the h-pawn or play h4 in such a position. It's a little primitive, you know. It's kind of like Cro-Magnon man chess. Intelligent, but quite primitive. It's definitely beyond the beyond the Neanderthal. I agree, Hissidnunts. White has progressed beyond Neanderthal with h4. He's using tools, but I still think that it's not very refined. I don't know if the computer will like it. A lot of weaknesses after h4. Got to be careful, but I think this looks okay. Key defenders. These pieces are key defenders. Some compensation. Queen d2 is like only move, more or less. Where's the money? Maybe rook b8. Or just b5. Let's just do b5. Inspirational chess, and I think that it would work with a fairly high frequency for white. Now maybe h6 as a defensive move is interesting. Weakening my g6 square a little bit. Maybe I can afford it. Can I afford it? Interesting question. I mean, h6 weakening my king side, do I need to do that? Do I want to do that or not? Just continue on the other side? But I feel like it might, you know, it might be okay to play h6. We are getting kind of low on time here. Andrea with a massive time advantage. c4 at some point. Pawn break. h6. Bishop takes f3. What's my idea after that, though? Maybe we do have an idea. Alright, let's try. We've got to do something. So it's always risky to move pawns in front of your king. He played c3. I don't believe it. That is risky. Wow. He's going the opposite direction now. I didn't expect that. He's kind of changing directions. c3, he's not going to castle queenside. Totally unexpected. Okay. Got opposite color bishop situation on hand here. Immediately denies me having any fun. But he can't castle queenside. Site update in progress. Steinitz used to do a d3, c3, I know. Attack with g3. G4 as a spearhead. He also did h4 in some interesting games. But that, like one famous game he won against, This move is sort of stupid, actually. What am I doing? Alright, let's just trade. One famous game against Chigorin, actually. I think it was against Chigorin, where he played h4. Now the white king is on e2. This queen f6 is a little awkward. Maybe not the best square, I don't know. Some kind of c4 in the right moment, shutting down his bishop. I mean, I don't think the white is better here anymore. I don't think there's any question. His advantage is in doubt. It is in doubt at this point. And I'm getting off the diagonal. I'm going to get off the diagonal here. I don't like living on this diagonal with my king. Wow, this stream really went by fast today, guys. We've got just like 25 minutes left. I've had a lot of tough games where I'm in time pressure all the time. I think this is one of the tougher games Andrea has played against me, where I really had to work very, very hard not to get in trouble. It's not clear. It's not clear white really has anything here. We've kind of consolidated. So I think at this point, black's just gonna keep slowly encroaching. A5, eventually D takes C and B4. And I can open a line for the dark squares. Again, the dark square blockade. My favorite theme, Hisitnens. We like our dark squared bishop. And knight too. I wouldn't mind a knight right about now, like on h5. That'd be nice. I'll trade my bishop for a knight. This looks like a blunder. But one interesting question is rook takes g6 check. Hardly. Should be enough. Kasparov, of course, went over some of Steinnitz's games in his books, but that's hardly the same as covering. Yeah, maybe there isn't really a great book about Steinitz. It's probably true. I think that a lot of people have been like, you know, not wanting to do that. Individual games have been analyzed so much in the history of chess. I guess nobody really wanted to go to the trouble of writing a great book about Steinitz. Rook takes g6, g5. Well, there's nothing here for white now. Losing everything. We're down a rock. Not good. So nice try, man. I think that Andrea has improved. He's improved, but he still needs to keep improving. And make a new queen. We got too much. So guys, we have time for like 2 more games, and then tomorrow it's back to Weird Wednesday. Malat's Mule Skinner. Wow. Malat's and Mule Skinner are last today, or M47 as I like to call him before. There's another guy who's called Malat, so I don't know. Malat has multiple accounts, or just like Who played in my simul on Sunday? Actually, that was you. There was some other guy played me recently called Malutz. I've tried pretty much everything by now against M47. He's played pretty much, faced all my weapons against the English opening. I've played E5, Bishop B4. I played B6 a lot. I've played C5. I played E5 with F5. So now we can try some kind of other line that I don't play so frequently. But after C6, you know, at this point, White makes a mistake, so he should play D4 there. The accurate move order is D4? Is that right, though? That actually doesn't look right either. D4, pawn takes pawn, queen takes pawn, D5. Should be a pretty good C3 Sicilian reversed. What is White supposed to do after G3, C6? Well, I think you have to do D4. I mean, what else can you do here? So we had this position the other day against another player in the stream. I also had it in the simul. Yeah. So somebody's following you around, Malutz, named Malutz, you know, it's weird. It's just funny. I mean, someone like M-A-L-L-O-C. And I wasn't sure because they're around the same rating level as you. Pawn takes D4. And this is considered to be at least equal for black, if not slightly better. So it's like a move order inaccuracy, but I'm not really sure what you're supposed to do. I mean, G3, C6. Yeah, D4 must be D4 now. E takes D4, queen takes D4, D5. C takes D5. C takes D5. You're in that same situation again. What else can we recommend for White? Knight F3. Maybe you have to play Knight F3. Knight F3. But I remember studying that's not so great for White either. Like, Knight F3, E4. Another kind of C3 Sicilian. What would average game time be? If you don't mind me asking. Yeah, the average game time is E+3, so like 20 minutes, 15 minutes. Between 15 and 20 minutes. Some of them are, you know, if someone blunders, it can be like 5 minutes. Anything between 5 and 20 minutes, we run the gamut here with the 8-3 games. And so, I'm trying to remember now. I looked at this the other day. I think Queen A4 was the move that was played in the lichess database by a few people, or maybe just Queen D1. I can't really recall. But as far as I remember, Queen H4 was not a usual move. I mean, we've got to look at Bishop E7 here seriously. D4 is very fundamental. And after D4, there were some lines where Black played like Bishop E4 check and White played King F1, but the Queen wasn't on H4. I remember clearly the Queen was on either A4 or D1. We can play. We've got to be active here because I'm 100% sure that Queen H4 is a mistake. At least on some level. It's not the best move. Looking with a strong engine, I was certain that either Queen D1 or Queen A4 was superior. So white has made a mistake on some level. Even the whole variation is not really correct for white. So we have to really be incisive and try to find the best move. Bishop e7, bishop g5. The idea being that I can play h6, but I'm not threatening anything because my rook is unprotected. So I don't know what that really means ultimately. If I play bishop e7, bishop g5, you could do some crazy thing where like castles queenside. That looks insane. d4, knight e4. And knight takes e4, queen takes d8 check, and I don't think that's good for me. That's his main idea here. If I do immediately d4, he has knight e4. Then I could play bishop e7. But then again, I mean, we might face stuff like bishop g5. So somehow I feel like this is more accurate to play bishop e7 first. Sort of a passive move, though. You know, I mean, this is a little bit passive, you have to admit. But I'm trying to exploit the queen on h4. Not to play routinely here. It's a correct move. It's not as aggressive as something like bishop c5, which deserves consideration. I mean, you know, bishop c5, but what are you going to do when white plays like bishop g5? You could play something crazy like bishop c5, bishop g5, queen b6. I don't know, but I don't really trust it. His knows this is a c3 Sicilian, but the colors are reversed. I never play the c3 Sicilian, but somehow openings tend to be difficult to play when they're like reversed with an extra tempo. Guys, we're going to be back tomorrow with classical and blitz, but weird openings, so be prepared to play some unusual stuff. That's the Weird Wednesday stream. And then Thursday, Friday, normal blitz and classical, 10 a.m. to 12:30 CEST. And every Sunday I do a simul on lichess at 6:30 p.m. CEST. Again, my YouTube channel is Video Chess Training on YouTube. Every week I try to put up some kind of new video and upload my streams there. And last week I did a review of some simul games. If you guys play me in the simul on Sunday, I might review some of the games in a video on YouTube. If you want to contact me, if you're interested, we're teaching chess full time now, so if you're interested in training or lessons, send me an email, videochesstrainer@gmail.com. You can reach me there. If you have any interesting propositions like tournaments you know about, teams in Europe, let me know. Bishop e7, but don't proposition me about the hyper bullet tournaments. Because I'm not going to do that. Bishop g5. Okay, so now we've got three options. Although d4, knight e4, I'm just not really, looking for that here. White has no threat per se. So h6, castle. I mean, castles is the most solid move of all in this position for black. Just developing. Just calling the question to this queen on h4. No, he can do some maniacal castles queenside. That's fine with me. I mean, I don't really believe, but it might be playable. It's basically like a kind of weird Scandinavian, very, very dangerous. But I'm not sure that it's definitely like unplayable for white. Kind of makes sense in a way to castle queenside. Another possibility, I mean, I've got to watch out for when I play h6 and he like tries to sacrifice a piece or something, like you see sometimes in the weird Scandinavian lines where black plays like queen d5 and queen h5. Very very weird lines there. What about d4 now? knight e4. It still appears okay for white. d4, knight e4, knight takes e4, bishop takes e7. That doesn't make sense, does it? d4, knight e4. Wow, do I win a piece there? d4, knight e4, knight takes e4, bishop takes e7, queen takes e7. I win a piece. So suddenly there's this possibility of d4 forcing his knight off sides or to a bad square. It seems like critical. I have a little bit of like perspective in this position because I also play the C3 Sicilian with black, and I play lines where I fianchetto with G6, and I played a lot of those variations, and I kind of know like, well, how you're supposed to play and those sort of structures, and this type of setup is usually a little bit dubious, where you're letting black get in d4. Queen sacrifices, anybody? Definitely on the table here. Doesn't look sound at the moment. Bishop f5, h6. If h6, bishop e3 could be an interesting queen sacrifice. Let's go for it. Playing against his queen on h4 basically here. There's an argument for some developing moves too, like bishop f5, but they're just not as incisive. I mean, I don't threaten anything if I do that. Bishop e3 I'm taking. I'm sacking my queen there. I mean, I'm not, maybe not even, I mean, I think I have compensation. I might have a better move though. Maybe I can do knight d5 or something. I don't know, knight g4. So bishop e3 looks dangerous, yeah. I don't think that's really the right move for white. I'd like to talk him into it, but I feel very guilty about that, so. He could sacrifice a piece on h6. I looked at it, I wasn't really afraid. It doesn't look that scary, honestly. Like bishop takes h6, pawn takes h6, queen takes h6, bishop f5. And black's kingside looks pretty defensible. So I don't know. We got one more game, last game against Mule Skinner. As long as Mule Skinner has a number of games, is this unrated or something? No, okay, he's got enough games. So I'm not going to play somebody who's just created a new account. In the g6, bishop g75 defense against the Alapin, knight h6 aiming for knight f5, right. That's like the time that I played. That's how I transposed in the C3 Sicilian Hissit notes, by playing e4 knight h6 once. e4 knight h6, d4 d5, pawn takes pawn, knight f5. That's my 3 a.m. defense that I invented. Maybe you don't know about my special repertoire. Well, I said bishop f5, but that doesn't mean like I'm absolutely forced to play that move. I mean, it looks like black has alternatives. Knight h7 is okay, probably quite okay. Knight h7, knight takes d4. Knight takes d4. Bishop e4, f5. Bishop f5. Knight h4, bishop h7. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm sort of starting to see ghosts here. I really don't think that Okay, I looked at queen g5 check. But it shouldn't be a problem, should it? I mean, it doesn't really look like white has anything here. I'm not going to sacrifice my queen unless I absolutely need to. He's threatening nothing really. Maybe some h-file checkmates. What is the best move per se? Can I trap the white queen? Not really possible. Simplifying knight e4. It sort of loses one of my kingside defenders, though. If I play this and trade for that guy, I'm like trading off my best defender. White has two pawns for a piece, much like you, Hypnos, the other day. I mean, I've got to take it seriously. It's not a joke. There's two pieces for... And bishop h6 is a threat. No knight g4. I mean, queen h6. There's no knight g4 here. So this is not trivial. Knight g4 hangs a piece. Knight d5 hangs a piece, or does it? Knight d5. I'm gonna lose on time now. I'm panicking. I'm panicking a little bit. $15, $14, $13. The Hyper Bullet Championship is over. But you wouldn't think so, would you? Just like panicking. My God. All right, tough game. Tough game. You fought to the end. Mule Skinner. All right. Mr. Skinner. Knight on Prise. Mule Skinner, his last game today. We did play once. 5-2. Incorrect time control. I don't know when that was. Probably a long time ago. So Mule Skinner's actual rating in Blitz is 1800. Doesn't have classical games. Played me 5-2 once before. So we're obviously expecting a... we're expecting him to really use his time. Really expecting him to use his time here. I'll play what I know the best. Knight d4. And then he does this. This is kind of an annoying variation, I admit. Jinjiash really did a lot of analysis on bishop d3. But I guess ultimately this is better. Try to keep the tension here. There are very few moves black can make in this position and kind of more or less keep the tension. I think that knight h6 is interesting. I want to take him out of his comfort zone. You know, the people that play these setups for white, they have memorized like one particular variation normally. And when you make an unusual move like knight h6, it usually is difficult for them to adjust. This so-called, whatever it is, I don't even know what this is called, honestly. This Grand Prix with bishop b5. It's not a Grand Prix because Grand Prix is bishop c4. So I don't know what you call this variation actually for white, if it has a name. E5 looks wrong. But, I mean, I don't think that it's a terrible move. Knight takes b5, d5. I guess we could kind of transpose to some sort of known variations here. Knight takes b5, d5, pawn takes pawn en passant, and then take back. He's got rook e1 check. So I can't afford to do that, honestly. I mean, I have to do something else. We'll have to castle first. Leave this out to dry on b5. And then we'll play as appropriate. We'll try to play, you know, as we feel appropriate here. Maybe this is some theory. I remember Roman being very animate that knight h6 was okay for black. In fact, I might have actually seen him play it himself, if memory serves me. But white's playing perfectly so far. I mean, as far as I can see, this looks like optimal play for white. Still clamping down, not letting me free my position. I could play d5 and let the pawns just get broken up. It's probably not so bad, actually. Maybe this is for best, just to allow the isolated pawns. I could also play d6. Maybe it's more accurate to play d6 instead of d5. I don't know. They're both probably... It's hard to imagine white doesn't have better than taking. I think these double pawns aren't so bad for me. We control a lot of central squares. You know, you can definitely make an argument that if he takes here, he opens up my bishop on g7. These double pawns are not so bad for black. So we have active pieces in exchange for one pawn weakness. It looks like the e3 square. should be exploited. Knight g4 not as stable as knight f5, of course. No sense to make like silly moves like bishop g4. That's a kind of beginner move, just attacking things for the sake of attacking things. Get you in a lot of trouble. I mean, white's usually making that kind of maneuver, queen e1, queen h4 anyway in the Grand Prix attack, or again, whatever it's called. I don't know what to call it exactly. Does this variation have a name? It must have some tradition with the English players, because I recall both, well, I recall Plaskett playing it against me, you know, even like before Roman started making videotapes. Around that time, so I'm thinking that the English Grandmasters, there was another player, another strong English player who played it against me. So I'm thinking it has some kind of following over in the UK, this variation. 93 drops a pawn, I guess. So I'm not sure what I should do here. Well, it doesn't drop a pawn per se, actually, at all. Yeah, let's go for it. It looks kind of active. It got all sorts of tactical possibilities. That's a powerful piece. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. All right. And anyway, it's best for black to open these bishops. But I don't really have any clue about Muleskinner's strength. So far impressive. He's 1800, but that's blitz. This is classical. Still, we have a very solid position. He's got so Plaskett and Gary Lane wrote books about it. Yeah, I wasn't thinking of Gary Lane. I was thinking of another guy who also played it. Yeah, I mean, Plaskett against me played... I remember beating Plaskett in this variation, but in a blitz game. He, you know, the critical line is like after knight takes b5, knight takes b5, and then like d5. And actually, Roman Gingiashvili and Perelstein recommend like white taking on d5. But Plaskett played it like with e5, and I think that actually in that case the Perelstein and Gingiashvili are right, you know, because I don't really think that e5 is that good for white. To close it up makes some sense, but I feel like black has good chances there. I was recommending d5, pawn takes d5. Although if black knows the theory there, black equalizes there too. I mean, it's a variation. If black knows this line perfectly, you know, white's not going to get an advantage. But the argument, I guess, is that, you know, is white going to get an advantage in any opening? Here I could play bishop d4, but I wasn't sure if it's good. It's probably interesting to play bishop d4 here. And maybe he does some weird move like rook b4 just to hit my bishop. So d5. Not really sure what to do here. We have to be open-minded. Watch my b7 pawn. Some combination of d5. Maybe just like d5, d4 isn't bad. I don't really want to lose my b7 pawn. I don't want to lose the exchange either. I'm up a pawn temporarily on e3. I mean, maybe we just simply protect the pawn with d5, d4. But now b6. And some tactics around here now. Queen a5, rook b5. It gets a little hairy. Queen c3. Actually, queen a5, queen takes d5 is possible too. So, kind of strange position. The knight is awkward. The most important thing in the Grand Prix, or whatever, f4, Sicilians, the black king is safe. Our king has been safe the whole game. So we're thankful for that. Guys, we're going to be back tomorrow after this game, whatever happens. 10 a.m. tomorrow here on Twitch and lichess. So thanks for joining me today. The stream went a little longer than usual. I don't mind sometimes to stream till 45. I mean, you could definitely sack an exchange around here and have full compensation. Something like b takes c. With this powerful protected passed pawn, there's serious argument for that. This is getting a little bit weird. Rook b8, bishop takes d5. I don't really want to give up material here. Yule Skinner seems very, very tactically oriented. Bishop g4. And queen takes d5. It's a good way to like lose an exchange or something. Bishop g4, queen takes g4, queen takes d5, knight goes somewhere. We're better. I really want to trade pieces, but that bishop's very powerful. Actually, this might have been better just to sack the exchange when I first could do it. Simpler. Keep all those pawns. This kind of relies on a tactic. Yeah, knight d7 loses to f5, but this also loses to f5. Unless he's seen beyond that. f5, queen g5, h6. Is there some kind of trick? Seen the great beyond. Has he seen the great beyond or something? Not to my knowledge. Just got two pieces hanging here. So ultimately, one move blunder. Queen takes g4, queen takes d5. You have to play, it looks like, knight b3 with a position where I thought I'm better. I've got a very powerful passed pawn in the final position. The material is equal. I'm not sure white's necessarily lost. Maybe he can blockade. I didn't really trust this though. Now here we go again with the two pawns for a piece. You can take the pawn on a2 as well. I think since I have, since I have a queen hanging anyway, maybe there's a rationale for this move. I'm not trying to be greedy, but if I'm gonna have to move my queen anyway, I guess queen a2 is reasonable. Interesting move there, defending c2 in a sort of abstract way. Do I have e2? e2. e2, d2. I have e2 here with rook takes f4. This is hanging. So we snap this pawn off, and that is a very important development because it kills that pawn duo. You know, the pawn duo with the f4, e4 pawns, very dangerous. So I think this is probably an easy win now. He's basically just down a piece. Not an authority on this opening though. Knight h6 avoids the most established lines. To have a deeper look after the game. I thought that white played logically though. Sirik says, "Wow, bonus time on the stream today." Yeah, I went a little bit longer. I kind of promised two players that I was going to play those last two games, and then like the one prior went really long. That happens sometimes. Here, we've got queen takes b1, kind of a funny move. Queen takes b1, that's brutal. What are you going to do after queen takes b1? It's kind of funny. You can have all my rooks, all my pieces. Rook, check. I could even play rook f8 there. Queen takes b8, rook f8. Or just king h7. So we're kind of having fun. Alright guys, we're out of here. So I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining me. Thanks to Soroche. Ghostmite was at the top of the list. Please play him next. He changed his challenge to casual instead of rated. Yeah, I don't recall. Sorry about that, but he was lower on the list, Sharon. I would have, but we're already like 15 minutes over. So hopefully, if that player wants to play, then maybe tomorrow. All right, we're a little bit late today, so didn't notice that message earlier. Sorry about that, Tarun, and we do the best we can, but sometimes people get kind of cheated because they dropped a challenge or something like that. So I didn't realize. Anyway, see you guys later, and we'll be back tomorrow with weird openings and unusual stuff tomorrow at 10 a.m. Bye-bye.